It's the third season premiere of the Stadium Journey podcast. We are proud to be part of the HIAC Talk Radio Network. Thanks for joining us for season 3. Stadium Journey is the internet leader in stadium reviews for the traveling sports fan. Check out all of our 2,600 stadium, ballpark, and arena reviews on our website, stadiumjourney.com, and follow us on social media. We're on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram at Stadium Journey. And you can find the Stadium Journey podcast and all of HIAC Talk Radio's other content at thebradyhicks.com or look us up on VOC Nation on iTunes Radio. Follow the HIAC Talk Radio Network on Twitter. They're on Twitter too, at HIAC Talk Radio. And if you'd rather watch your sports talk, all of the HIAC Talk Radio podcasts are now available on YouTube for your viewing pleasure at youtube.com/DanLaw83. And in this world of multimedia, today we are now streaming on Twitch. So the address there is, if I remember right, twitch.tv/
Yes, twitch.tv/DanLaw83. If you look up never mind. I failed.
Hey, I was going to get it though. Twitch.tv/DanLaw83. And now here's our starting lineup. We've got Dave Cotney. You can follow him at ProFan9. Mark Viquez can be followed at Ballpark Hunter. And our producer, Dan Calachico, can be followed at DanLaw83. Look at the branding there. And I am Paul Baker. You can follow me at PuckmanRI. And we are very glad to be joined today by one of our favorite guests, Andrew Bauhs of collegefootballtour.com. Andrew, welcome back. And how have you been?
I've been great. Thank you guys for having me on again. Looking forward to talking about this past season and everything going forward.
Excellent. So let's see. Last time we talked, for those of you who don't know Andrew, he is on a quest currently to visit every FBS football stadium in the nation, right?
That's correct.
And what are you at now? How's your progress been since we last talked?
Just hit Stadium 84 along the trek. And it was at University of Oklahoma, and outstanding place to be. And so that's where the number's going to stop this year. But I think I got this thing down. I think I'm going to get it done in 6 more years, taking it nice and slow and enjoying the ride.
All right, gentlemen, I apologize. My screen is frozen. For those of you watching me on our YouTube channel, it's not very exciting. So, Andrew, 83 out of, what's the total now of FBS schools? 140?
There's 130 of them, although they have continued to extend that finish line over the past few years. However, it's been frozen at 130 for a while, so I feel pretty confident that it'll stay there for the duration of my journey.
Excellent. So you mentioned you just added Oklahoma. What else is new this season for you?
Oklahoma, that was new. Tulsa was the night before Oklahoma. Finally got to Alabama, got all those Crimson Tide fans off my back, saying, why haven't you been there? Why haven't you been there? Why haven't you been there? Well, roll Tide. Been to FAU, FIU, and Miami all in one weekend. Went to Virginia Tech, went to Liberty. That was interesting. And then opened the season, I'm going backwards, opened the season at my new retirement home, University of Hawaii. And by retirement home, I don't mean old age home. I mean retirement as in I want to still be enjoying myself.
Can't complain about Hawaii.
No, that was fantastic.
I could. Volcanoes.
Well, it depends upon the island.
See? Things you got to think about when you go to Hawaii.
Dave, go ahead, because I think we lost Paul. So.
No, I think I'm here.
Oh, yeah, you're
good
here.
to have you.
Go ahead, David.
Andrew, with Alabama having what I would say is an uncharacteristic Alabama year, coinciding with your trip there, are they now going to be on your back never to return?
Well, that's interesting to say. I never know where I'm going to go back and return to. I'm going back to Tennessee this weekend, and it's because I haven't been there in almost a decade and a half. And so I feel like I need a repeat, and it's close enough to me, so it's not that big of a deal. Alabama, though, I feel like I did it on a good day. I went when they crushed Arkansas. They were #1 in the country at the time. I saw Tua play, and I saw his younger brother play, and I saw I'm sorry, I did not see Tua play. He was not actually able to play that day, but I saw him on the sideline. I feel like I saw a really good day for Alabama. And so if it takes me another 10 years before I go there, I don't think I'll be sad that I missed it, but that's only because I have a lot of good things to say.
Well, I would say that with all of the concern about the future of Tua after his pretty horrific hip injury, I don't think he has to worry, because my Miami Dolphins have been on this tank for Tua thing for about 3 years, and we are so bad that he could have one leg, and I'm sure we'll still end up drafting him.
That's an interesting take. But I'll tell you, his brother is fearful. He's third in line at Alabama, now second in line with Tua being out. And that boy basically is Tua again. So they got a guy in between. But they just keep reloading. I mean, it's a little unfair. I guess it's the rich just keep getting richer in college football. It's a little unfortunate right now.
Well, it's interesting that you kind of went that way. With Alabama at this moment being out of the college football playoff, and I think there's a pretty good chance that they're going to stay out of the top 4. Do you think this is a good thing, or are we just ending up with the same olds? Like we still have Clemson in there, and we still have Ohio State. How do you feel about college football parity, and should there be a little bit more variety up at the top?
Absolutely, there should be variety at the top. That's what college football is all about. I've been a strong disliker of dynasties for a long time, and I say that even for my own team, Wisconsin. They've never won a national championship, but I could even see they won the Big Ten title in 2010, 2011, and 2012, 3 years in a row. And in 2012, I even began to see a little bit of a relaxed nature in the fans and in the everything. It just became this another one kind of thing. I think it's bad for that wasn't even national championship-ville. That was just Big Ten championship. I think it gets taken for granted. And you look at a team like Minnesota, who's going to play the Badgers this weekend. There's a team that hasn't won the title since 1967, hasn't been to the Rose Bowl since then. That fan base deserves this. And, Wisconsin's going to play them this weekend. If Wisconsin wins, they're going to go to the Big Ten title game. But if Minnesota wins, and this is my hated rival, right, the Gophers, supposed to be anyway. It's Ohio State, but it's supposed to be. I'm going to be so happy for them, because that's what makes college football so great. And no disrespect to Alabama, they deserve what they've got. They're doing a good job and everything, but I think we need to see some different teams starting to pull up their britches and do the dang thing.
Yeah, and Minnesota is, I would say, a unique, especially in that conference, in that they have a really nice facility, one of my favorites, and it's new.
Yeah.
Not too many new college football stadiums kicking around. And we went there. I can't imagine what it would have been like to play as Minnesota in the Metrodome, but TCF is a really nice stadium. It's one of my favorites and very unique in that it is so new.
Yeah, that's the other big thing. If I were to have two pet peeves in college football, it's dynasties, the rich keep getting richer kind of thing, and college teams playing in pro stadiums, because it rips apart the on-campus, the feel of the culture, the tradition, everything. When you get to bus fans and stuff and gets all that stuff moving. I've been to the Metrodome a number of times for Gopher games, and it just was not what it should have been. So TCF is much better.
Is there anywhere where a pro team and a college team share a facility and it does work?
I'll tell you, I was actually I went to Miami this year, and I was really, I was really not looking forward to going to a pro stadium, with the Hurricanes being there. But I was actually pretty impressed with the way that Miami fans really still put their stamp on there, even though the Orange Bowl got torn down. I thought they did a pretty good job with that. And I know they're trying to build that stadium, trying to build the program back up. I think it might have part to do with it. But outside of that, no. Pittsburgh and Heinz Field. It's good when Notre Dame comes or Penn State. San Diego State at Qualcomm. Well, that's not Qualcomm anymore, but that was awful. That was it doesn't work. It doesn't work, and I think when you pull it away from another good one, USF at the Buccaneers Stadium, Tampa. I just think it pulls it away. I think it pulls it away. Pulls away that culture and tradition of what makes college football special.
Yes, Dan.
Keep going.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I was thinking. I've actually seen a couple college teams playing pro stadiums. I saw UMass play at Gillette.
Oh, good one. Good one.
That was 90 miles from campus. So you're talking about busing fans. Forget it. The kids didn't even show up. And back in the day, now this is probably before all your time, in 1984, I saw the University of Maryland play at the old Memorial Stadium against Penn State. So it was a packed house. But yeah, like you said, not the same. It's
not the same. Another one's Temple at Philly.
Yeah.
So there's another one. It's too bad. I mean, it just, these places have an opportunity. You don't have to have a big stadium. You don't. Actually, and a tip of the hat to San Diego State, they are building a new stadium. And I'm very glad for that. It's going to be about 40,000 seats, and that's all you need. You have these huge behemoth stadiums that are 80, 90, 100, 110. You don't need that. The 40,000, 50,000 is great and can really make it powerful.
Are we seeing the college teams and the pro teams trying to separate? Because, for example, Minnesota, they both played in the Metrodome, and then they said, "Hey, we're going to build our own stadium." Are we seeing a wave of that coming, or just kind of hit or miss at this point?
Yes, I think we are seeing a wave of that coming because college football, if you look at the trajectory of it, college football was very popular in the 50s, 60s, and then pro football really hit its stride in the 70s and 80s. And then college football started to come back in the 90s, 2000s, and this decade. And so it was in that, I feel like I'm using the Metrodome as an example. It's not the only example. But the Metrodome was an example of one where they got rid of Minnesota's stadium in the early 80s and started going Metrodome. And now they're coming back. And I think it's also a money thing, though. Some teams can't afford it. But I think we are seeing a wave of that coming back. I hope we are anyway. But I think more teams are trying to push towards campus. San Diego State's obviously another one.
Well, I think there's a couple of examples that you gave there, and Miami being an interesting one. Miami gained their claim to fame playing in a pro stadium, right? They played at the Orange Bowl, and the Dolphins played at the Orange Bowl. And there was a bit of time when they were separated, but for the most part, the U has always played at the same spot the Dolphins have, right? Now, Pitt, I don't see Pitt ever getting their own stadium because that campus is just so urban. It's very downtown, and the terrain in downtown Pittsburgh is not exactly flat anywhere. For those of you who have tried to go to a Penguins game and park down the hill, that's not fun.
That's a steep hill too.
That's a steep hill, yeah. But I don't see Pitt ever doing anything different. Now, to me, Heinz Field, they tried. It's hard to be like little brother to the Steelers, I think. But there is some decent like Pitt stuff happening at Heinz Field, and they do a couple little things, right? Like it never says Steelers in the end zone, right? No. One side says Pittsburgh, the other side just has lines. The gates, the big, huge wrought iron gates, some of them say Steelers, some of them say Panthers. There's some stuff in the Hall of Fame. Last time I checked, Tony Dorsett did not play for the Steelers, right? There's some stuff at Pitt. And Pitt's okay. It's not too bad. I would think it's better than USF or Temple.
Yes. I'm sorry. And I think I say two things about the thing that frustrates me about Pitt is they got rid of a beautiful classic stadium that was on campus. Their last game was against Notre Dame in 1999, and they got rid of that, and they could have renovated it. And I don't know if that's something that they're kicking themselves about, because it was a classic college football bowl, and I think that would be something that would be really enjoyed today.
Yeah, it's just funny how Pitt was the first football program there, and then the Steelers played at Forbes Field. And then I think they played at University of Pitt during the 50s and 60s before they had Three Rivers built. So it's kind of flip-flop. But, yeah, college-only venues, that's something I've never really sort of figured out. Would they be much smaller than their NFL counterparts, or it just depends on the campus size?
Not necessarily. They
can be bigger.
Minnesota and the Vikings aren't that far apart. The Gophers and the Vikings.
Michigan.
Well, you're talking about that. Okay, well, yeah. Michigan. You want to go the teams? Well, I could go all day on that.
Well, we got an hour.
Well,
or more.
Let me start. Number one is definitely Michigan being 109,000 plus, and Ohio State is the biggest one in the state of Ohio, and those two right off the bat. Penn State, right there is over 100,000. So you could keep going on. Tennessee is over 100,000. I'll be there this weekend, and they're all bigger than their pro counterparts. Georgia is bigger than the Falcons. So that it could go on and on. I know that University of Florida is bigger than capacity wise is bigger than Hard Rock. So you have all that going for them. California, USC, and the Rose Bowl are both bigger. Although now USC is with the LA Rams, right? They still have the same stadium, right?
Yes.
USC and the LA Rams. Okay, yeah.
For now.
Yeah. For now, right.
Did you guys see our Los Angeles correspondent who was at the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum for USC UCLA? Did you see his pictures? Yeah. It was embarrassing how empty that place was. And it was embarrassing to hear him say that the lowest ticket price was $90. Oh, that's crazy.
And what was parking? I don't want to know what parking was.
Isn't that what isn't it like $100 for the Rams games there?
I've heard that. That's what people said.
I know, the USC game I went to about 4 or 5 years ago, right outside the stadium, they had $80 parking. We wound up finding $40 parking.
Oh, lucky you.
A couple blocks down. I know, right?
Where did you find it? In San Diego?
Oh wait! My next big trip is LA. Oh, I got to start saving.
Well, I guess you Uber, right? I guess that's what the young kids have on us. They would Uber, not worry about driving to the game.
Right.
$80. That's
okay.
Insane.
Speaking of the young kids, and this isn't FBS, but I'm going to bring it up anyway, Andrew. Did you see what happened at the Yale-Harvard game this weekend?
Yes. Well, I was.
Do you have any thoughts about that?
I was on the road, but when I got back to the hotel, I was looking at. I was checking that out. That was the biggest story, really, because at 45 minutes was climate change. They just did basically a big sit-in on the field.
Delayed the game and everything. Yeah.
Well, good for them. Whatever. I mean, it's Yale Harvard. I don't know. What else do you expect?
That's what. Yeah.
Not as good as when MIT used to prank the Harvard Yale game, but it's still pretty impressive, I thought.
I think good. I think it's good. Way to go. Take your platform, use it. Whatever. I didn't get to see how they enforced getting them off the field or whatever. I don't know how that all worked. I only heard about the story and read a little bit about it, but it was pretty fascinating.
Well, apparently this is something that's been going on for about 3-4 years. They've been trying to get leaders or administrative of each school to have a conversation about it or get the ball going. So if this gets the ball going, then hopefully this protest was a success. And unfortunately, when you have a protest. This is what you do.
Once again, college
gets the
football
attention.
changing the world, y'all.
Yeah.
College football changing the world.
Go ahead, Dave.
So I'd like to hear about the experience at Hawaii. What was that like? How does the Hawaii Warriors differ from going to any of the other places?
Well, Aloha Stadium is something that they're looking to replace soon. I'm going to start with that. It was built in the 70s and looks like it. When they had a great team in the mid 2000s, they used to fill it. And there are enough fans there that care about Hawaii football to fill it. But, here's the thing. What I'd say about Hawaii is that Aloha Stadium gets about half filled. But the fans that fill it, don't mistake the fact that they're not mainlanders. Don't mistake the fact that they can't still be as passionate as any other fan base. I got in touch with some fans out there that blew me away. We got connected with about 10 people, great tailgate. And these are people, one guy's been to, almost 60 straight Hawaii games, very intent into breaking a record. And the team's doing really well this year. The game we went to, they upset Arizona. And it was really impressive. It felt, visually, it was not a full stadium, but it felt like it could have been. There's definitely a lot of passion there for that team. Whether or not they're fair weather or not is another story, but it was pretty impressive.
Now, outside of the just natural areas of Hawaii and its tourist attractions, I guess, is Hawaii football like the top ticket, the top draw for that community?
They try. It was, it's funny because, okay, when we were driving around the week before the game, the radio station was talking about the opening game for Hawaii. And they were saying, come on, guys, let's get this stadium filled. This is a big deal. We're Hawaii. Let's do this. Last week, Aloha Stadium was filled for Bruno Mars 2 nights in a row. If we can do that, we can fill it for Hawaii football. So there's like a push for, they know that it's there. It's motivating the base. I would say there's a strong bunch of diehards there. The stadium was about 60,000. I'd say there's 30,000 diehards there that will go every game. And then the other 30,000 that would fill it up would be if there's something flashy about the team or if they're undefeated or whatever. I thought it'd be a little better this year. They actually won their division of the Mountain West. They're going to the Mountain West championship game. And I don't know how much has changed in that stadium, but I would say it isn't. I would say it's not the number one draw. When you have Waikiki Beach and you have everything else going on, Diamond Head and everything else going for you, it's hard to draw them into Aloha Stadium, which, by the way, is a good distance away from the ocean. Campus is far away.
What were the students like there? Because noticing that you went like late August, so I would assume that it would be tough on students.
I don't know that I can get a good assessment on the student section there because it was August 24th when I went. It was their week 0 of college football, and there's a lot. As I was walking around on campus, there was a lot of orientation programs going on and the like. So I don't know that, but one thing I can say is that as I was walking around Hawaii's campus, which is a good distance from the Aloha Stadium, there weren't very many signs or things that were showing, Hawaii football, go to the game, Rainbow Warriors, support the team, blah, blah, you go onto campus and you see it all over the place. It was not there and was not present at the University of Hawaii. It seems like their mindset's a little different, but make no mistake, there are fans there that really care.
So I'd like to circle back to a different party of travels this year. You said you did a 3-game weekend. Tell
Yeah.
us a little about that from the planning stuff. We did a whole show one time on how to plan a trip.
Huh.
So how do you figure, you know what? I'm gonna go nuts and do 3 games in a 72-hour period.
I got lucky. Part of it's luck. That weekend was mid-October, and a lot of this is based on television schedules and when certain networks will broadcast when or advertise when when the games are actually going to be played. Is there a Thursday and a Friday and then a Saturday game that's going to be all within the same proximity and all within times that are reasonable to get to one another? I saw a weekend where Florida Atlantic was playing on a Friday, and that game was scheduled. It had a time. It was like 6 p.m. And then Florida International was scheduled for 6 p.m. So I said, you know what? I can do those two. Let's do that. Let's book it. Let's go. The Miami game was not scheduled yet. I had no plan to go whatsoever to Miami. I assumed it'd be an afternoon game. I assumed it'd be difficult. It wound up being an 11 a.m. game. So it wound up being that. I found that out about a week and a half before I went. And so we just got tickets and added that to it. So it was Florida Atlantic on a Friday night, Miami at 11 a.m., and then we drove the 30 minutes over to Florida International for the evening game. And all of that, I got to get to all of it and catch all the pregame and everything, which sometimes it's hard when you're doing 2 games in a day. You might be running to kickoff, but it was separate enough and also close in proximity enough to be able to catch everything.
That's fantastic. It sounds like but at the end of a day like that, you have got to be exhausted.
Yeah.
All the stadium travels. We were talking about the thrill when we're doing a baseball trip of getting that day game, that school day game in the afternoon, and it's kind of the same thrill and be able to get there on time and everything and beat the traffic. It's what we live for, right?
Yeah, at the end of the Florida Atlantic day, I left Chicago that morning, and I worked the field for the Florida Atlantic game that night. And so by the end of the night, I looked at my my step count, and it was 23,000 steps for that day. And that doesn't count the next day that I did the Miami game. That was another 20,000 plus. So yes, it's a lot. I'm exhausted. I don't get to do much in the town on those weekends, but it's worth it when I get to walk away and add 3 stadiums to my goal.
Go ahead.
So, Andrew, last time you were on, you talked about some of your favorites being, if I remember correctly, it was LSU.
Yeah.
And Texas A&M. I think they were your most recent, and you were pretty wowed.
Yeah.
So is there anything this year, is there any spot you've been this year or any maybe specific piece of an experience that has kind of made it into your top echelon of experiences?
So I have kind of a fluid top 20, and I feel like it's good to be able to say a fluid top 20 because I'm constantly seeing new places. I'm constantly going to new places, and I never want to leave out smaller venues because there are things that the smaller venues can shock you with that you never would expect. LSU, Texas A&M, Penn State, Wisconsin, Nebraska, they're definitely in that top 10 echelon. But before I even went to them, I knew Alabama and Oklahoma would hit that top 20. I'm just not ready to set them in at a particular number yet. But I say that because you know it when you go there. Before you go there, you know all the history that you're gonna be like slapped in the face with. It's just saturated with culture and tradition and history. It's gonna make your top 20. Not ready to set a list on it yet, but I'll tell you one that I went to that is definitely gonna make that top 20, and that's Virginia Tech. I went to a lot of the fans. First of all, the fans. If I could have a top 5 of fans, that'd be Virginia Tech. Some of the best you'll find. They love their team, and they love it when new people come in who've never been there, and they want to show off everything. And there's a lot to show off. They have a great stadium. It's recently renovated, classic college stadium, huge, and incredible fan base. And their entrance is one of the best in college football. They do such a great opening. And so, yeah, I throw Virginia Tech into one of those that I think people know about, but you don't really know about it until you get to Blacksburg, Virginia, and check it out.
I get to hear about Virginia Tech all the time because Kelly graduated from there, and all I hear is how great Virginia Tech is, and the stands great, and the fans are great, and Metallica. Blah, blah. Now you hear this.
Wait, Metallica.
Oh yeah, Enter Sandman. You've seen that? It's
Okay, yeah.
Sorry, I should have mentioned that.
All kidding aside, Andrew, go ahead and say it because it's one of the best things I've ever seen, and I'm surprised. I know that the stadium is built with top of the line architecture. I can't believe the stadium still stands after watching all that. But now I'm never going to hear the end of it because I'm like, it's not that good. And now that you put it over like that, I have no argument in that conversation anymore.
Well,
thanks a lot.
What's cool about it, I'm a Wisconsin boy, and jump around is a big deal at Camp Randall Stadium.
Right. Yeah.
I love it. And the stadium does literally shake. In fact, the press box does. And sorry to my Wisconsin fans, and this to show you that I really can set my bias aside. But the Enter Sandman by Metallica and that whole thing, the whole stadium jumps up and down. And I was on the field for it, and I got to really feel it. And it's different because it's not between the third and the fourth quarter like the jump around, which is intense and it's incredible. Don't get me wrong, but it's before the game. There's so much anticipation. Between the third and fourth quarter, Wisconsin could be getting hosed by then, and we're kind of jumping around, and then we're going to leave the stadium, But and usually they're not. Thank God, they're a decent enough team. But the anticipation for the game makes it so much more powerful. I think that Virginia Tech has a little edge with their opening over jump around at Camp Randall.
So I saw that you also got to the new kid on the block this year and hit Liberty. So how does Liberty fare? Do they belong amongst the D1s or not?
No, yes, they do. And I'll tell you why. They were a major program in their FCS conference. I want to say the Big South. And they have a nice facility, and they're building it up. And they do have some very loyal fans. I report on the traditions at every school I go to, and they're just a little different. They just come in a little different than everybody else. There's a large, and this is not a negative thing by any means. I'm just saying that when you go to a Liberty game, you have to switch your mindset. There's going to be a 2-minute prayer before the game. 30,000 fans just saying a prayer before the game. And that was a special but also unexpected experience. And then on the flip end of that, Jerry Falwell founded the university in 1971. And so there is a group of fans there called Jerry's Jokers. Jerry's Jokers. They all dress up. They come in early. They're the first ones to come in, and they all paint themselves as the Joker of Batman fame. And there's about, I'm telling you, I would venture to say near 100 of them down right on the sideline, right behind the visitor bench. And they are heckling the heck out of the opposing team. And I say heck because they don't swear. It
is Liberty, right?
Yes, they do everything they can do without actually swearing. But it is incredible that they have such a deep-rooted tradition. You think about an FCS team coming up to the FBS, and you think, oh, well, they're going to have to rebuild their whole, no, they brought a bunch of traditions with them. They brought a bunch of hope and plans to improve, and their stadium is building up. And their Liberty is actually better than some FBS stadiums that have been around for a while. So Liberty impressed me, and I think that they deserve to be here.
Did I catch that they are going to be bowl eligible this year?
Yeah, first year.
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, it is. They beat New Mexico when I was there, and that was kind of a big win for them because they're an independence, and they're a new FBS independent. So to get to get some semi-bigger name teams into their stadium is a big deal. To then beat them is even a bigger deal. They got Syracuse to come into their stadium this year, which I thought was a big deal. They got blanked, but they beat New Mexico, and I think that kind of spurred their season on. So that's exciting for them, and they do belong. I rolled my eyes when I saw they were going to be the 130th team, partially because I was like, oh, another freaking place I have to go to, and in the middle.
Don't say that at Liberty.
Well, I said it the right way. But right in the middle of Virginia. How am I ever going to get there? Well, luckily it was an hour away from Blacksburg, so it worked out.
Nice.
Has there been anywhere you visited that was just, you just said the middle of nowhere, where it was just, oh man, this town is, a one-horse town, or somewhere you just didn't enjoy going?
Well, I have been to a lot of places. I'll tell you what I do. When I'm on this journey, my goal is to really highlight the best of that university, because I know people are going onto my website and going onto my Twitter page to hear about what's great about their university. And when I say I'm doing this tour, I say it's the best way to visit America, because you are seeing not just the big towns, but the small towns. I seem to always throw out, so to answer your question, I always seem to throw out DeKalb, Illinois, and Laramie, Wyoming as two towns that I'm like, hey, I got to this town kind of in the middle of nowhere. I mean, DeKalb's an hour and a half from me in Chicago, but to other people, it's in the middle of nowhere. And, the thing is without game day, it would be the middle of nowhere. But with game day, it becomes such a cool town. Laramie and DeKalb are great on game day. I have never been there outside of game day. But I'm not sure if that would be a hot spot to go to, but honestly, every college town has something special, and they blow up on game day, and that's why I go. It's so cool to see them.
I can attest to Laramie not being a significant hot spot when there's no game on.
Okay, good.
Wasn't much going on when we drove through there.
Got a nice Walmart. But yeah, no, I mean, but hey, on game day, it's those Wyoming fans. They really do. They care. It's a cool place to go.
Well, I was just in Bowling Green, Ohio, and didn't really think too much of the town. Have you been to their football stadium?
Yeah, I've been there a couple of times. Most recently.
What is that like campus-wise on game day?
I went there when Indiana was playing there, so they were psyched that a Big Ten team was coming to town. Okay. And then they beat them. So the
Sounds
stadium,
typical.
Yeah, right. So the stadium was actually full. They were really excited. I think these MAC schools, not to get away from your Bowling Green question. So to come back to Bowling Green, no, Bowling Green would not be a town that would be like, a hip town to hang out on a Friday night, I'm sure. Yeah. But on a game day, particularly in the early, I like to go to those MAC schools in September because there's still hope, and if they, it's true. You go, I will never go to a MAC stadium. I'm watching right now. I'm watching on TV. I'm watching Western Michigan at Northern Illinois. There's nobody there because it's 2 degrees and Northern Illinois is 4-7, and there's no hope.
And it's Tuesday.
And it's Tuesday, so I'm not
for a football game. Wow.
Yes, I know some. I have some people who are doing the same. I've met there's about 7 or 8 other weirdos like me who are doing the same tour, and some of them just blow all their money and they wait for these November MAC weekends when they can hit 3 stadiums on a Tuesday, Wednesday, and a Thursday night, but they're all empty. I would rather go in those September weekends when a Bowling Green is going to be excited because there's still hope. Maybe they have a cool team that's coming in because it's a non-conference season. That's when I like to go because that's when a team wants to show off their university and what they can do.
Well, yeah, that's I think I know what you're talking about. I went to Ball State this year in September. Beautiful weather, great crowd. And I've been out there were cold November days where there is no crowd.
Right.
Yeah.
No day.
Totally makes a huge difference in when you review it and how you perceive the stadium and the tailgating and the fans and maybe even the town itself.
Right. The smaller schools, I like to try to do that for. The bigger schools, like I'll go to Alabama when they're playing Western Carolina because I know they're still going to fill it and pack it. And it's going to be a big deal. But the smaller schools, I'm not going to go on a Tuesday night when they're 3-8 and playing another 1-10 team. No, thank you.
Go ahead, Dave.
Have you got any designs on bowls this season? Or
Yes.
is it just wherever Wisconsin's going?
No. Well, oh boy. Okay. So you said the Wisconsin word. So, if they go to the Rose Bowl, I might consider it. But I was thinking about hitting the Quick Lane Bowl this year in Detroit the day after Christmas. There's a possibility I could get on the field for that. And so, and the reason why I'm interested in that game this year is because all the bowl projections, pit Michigan State in it. And if Michigan State's in that bowl, then it's going to be
Huge.
Yeah, it's going to be a big deal, right in Detroit, right? So I think that would be a fun one to cover. And they'd likely play a semi-decent ACC team, something like a Florida State or a North Carolina. So I think you'd see a couple of big-name teams that are just having down years, good fan bases. So maybe the Quick Lane Rose Bowl's way out there.
Well, we're looking at we are going to be heading to the Gator Bowl this year because we're going to be in Jacksonville area at Christmas time. And the projections now are pretty solid that it's going to be Michigan in there, which is great for me. I'm excited to see Michigan.
Sure.
They were talking Missouri earlier in the week, but I think they might be falling off because they can't seem to stop losing. So we're looking forward to that one. We hit the Citrus Bowl last year and had an absolute blast. Kentucky beating Penn State.
Yeah.
Yeah, Kentucky was really surprising for me. I didn't think they would travel as well as they did for football, but they were a terrific traveling school, and I fully expected Penn State to travel well. So we had a blast last year, and I have high hopes for the Gator Bowl this year.
But see, that comes back to my point about dynasties and a team like Kentucky, who hasn't had a season for a while, that has brought them to a New Year's Day Bowl. That game meant everything to them, to play that team, that great Penn State team. And wow, I mean, that was everything to them. So, you have too much Alabama or too much Clemson or too much, you start to get fatigue with the sport a little bit. And I think that loses its appeal a bit.
Andrew, you mentioned that you've bumped into some other people who are doing the quest.
Yeah.
To complete the whole thing. Is there anybody closer to the finish line than you, or how are your get-togethers? They don't turn into a measuring contest, if you know what I mean, do they?
No, some people are done already, actually.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, what are you talking to him for? Get him off here.
Yeah. We got the wrong guy to show in.
Nobody does it like I do, though. That's the difference. So here's the difference. Here's the difference between me and everybody else. No, but I really do feel that there are some people who are done. One guy was actually featured on College Game Day because he lost his sight the last 10 or 15 games of his tour, but still finished it out, and it was a really neat story. There's a couple others that have done it, but they never really took the pictures or wrote the articles or did the videos the way I'm doing it. And I'm taking my time with it. There's another fella I met this year. I met him in Honolulu, and he actually breathed this one in, guys. He went to 50 games this year. 50.
Whoa. It's a lot of planning.
And it is a lot of planning and a lot of money and a lot of stuff, but he barely makes it to kickoff for some of these games. He's the one going to all these MAC games that are empty at night. And I applaud him for trying to move his goal along as quickly as he can. But I like taking my time and meeting the people there, spending a day at Oklahoma and breathing it in, not just coming for kickoff and leaving and rushing to the airport to get to my next game. I'm not breathing it in. He literally was in Honolulu for 24 hours and then flew back out.
That's
So
a shame.
and that is a shame. And to me, I'm not going to do that. But if his goal is just to knock this out and get it done, then great, go for it. I'm going to take my time and really breathe it in.
Dave, right? So you have a question?
Well, I was just gonna tell a little bit of a story because I almost jumped off the college football bandwagon this year after my fantabulous experience at the most hospitable U.S. military academy, which shut the door in my face and wouldn't let me on the base. And I got to say that kind of what restored my faith in college football, thankfully, was actually the next day when I hit Boston College. I had a very fine chauffeur for that game, which was awesome. But Boston College kind of hit me as, and Paul, maybe you can agree or disagree. It's not spectacular. There's nothing that is going to wow you outside of, Doug Flutie and the Doug Flutie statue, but it is just solid. It's a solid experience. It's not too great, but it's definitely not too bad. And I'm curious what you got going on next year and if you're going to hit the East Coast. If you are, I might suggest a certain limo service. They're pretty good. Got ins and outs and everything.
And the limo was cheap too, wasn't it?
It was super cheap.
I gotta ask why Army. What was the story at Army?
Oh yeah, this is a good story.
So in lieu of a birthday party for my son, we try and do a road trip. So I asked him what he wanted to do, and his video game experiences have brought him, as he does that create a player and come up through high school thing, and so somehow he ended up on Army. So he decided he wanted to go and see Army. That's what he wanted to do. He wanted to go and watch Army play football. So, okay, we built a whole trip around it. We were going to go out to Army. We stopped in Cooperstown on the way, went to the Hall of Fame, and did all the Cooperstown stuff. And then, we kind of rounded it out and, Boston College, and then started heading home. So I had my tickets. I had everything. I had it all planned. It was not one of the experiences where I felt underplanned. And I got to the gate because West Point is in the middle of nowhere. And at that point, they told me that I could not go on because I'm not American. And I did not have with me a card-carrying member of the military.
Oh, my goodness.
So they basically told me to go away after I had essentially driven, 8.5 hours to get to Army. So I was steaming mad. I was so upset I was this close to going to Rutgers. So, now, thankfully, after I talked to them after the long weekend, the ticket office was very apologetic, and they fully refunded my money. But that being said, I still went all the way out there, and that was going to be the highlight of the trip. And I have a funny feeling that the dude that worked in the ticket office was just a regular guy, and he wasn't military, because he kind of thought it was stupid what they were doing anyway. But they blamed it on Trump, so.
Wow. Well, that
sounds reasonable.
Yeah, there. I'll leave it at that. Next year, I kind of rolling. I'll tell you what. The Northwest and the Northeast are the places that I have not really spent a lot of time in. So the Washington, Oregon area, and of course the Boston College and UConn and Army and all that, those areas I'm really lacking in. So I'm going to be focusing my attention on those corners of the country. And Army is one of those places, if they let me in, that I will definitely wish to go to next year. I'd like to try to hit there. I know we're making a big plan to go to Auburn I'm almost done with the SEC. I just got Auburn, Georgia, and Mississippi State to do. So I'm going to try to hit Auburn. I'm going to try to hit Auburn, try to hit Georgia. But really going to be peeking my eyes up in those northwest, northeast corners to try to hit some of those, because that area of the country, both those areas of the countries are lacking for me.
Well, I'm lucky enough. I got the okay from the boss, not Paul the boss, the real boss, the boss
The
that
real
lives here,
boss.
the real boss, that we are going down to Austin, Texas for her work conference. And Texas just happens to be playing West Virginia the Saturday before the conference. So it looks like if everything works out properly, I'm going to get a chance to hit the Texas Longhorns and hang out with Bevo and have a great time.
That's
so
a great place.
I'm super looking forward to that next year.
Oh, that's what that text meant that you sent me about Bevo. I didn't
Yeah.
get it. I just totally didn't get it.
Bevo Orange.
Bevo.
So, I mean, you're not missing a whole lot up here in the Northeast, Andrew. I could tell you that much. But Army is a fantastic game day experience. So that one I would recommend. The other ones, you get them when you can.
I know, and it honestly, it has nothing to do with anything other than the fact that the schedules just haven't fallen. But now I'm getting to the point in my tour where I have to be more selective. I'll only have 46 left to go, and so I'm not adding any more new ones this year. 46 to go, and I'm thinking 6 more years with that, and I'm going to really have to pinpoint it and be strategic, and it's going to be fun. I love the planning. Gosh, I love the planning. I starts in about March, and that to me is almost as fun as getting going onto the tour, just figuring out where I'm going to go and how it's going to work.
So, that sounds great. You'll have to keep us posted, and maybe we'll do another recap in about, 11, 12 more months?
Sure. Whenever. You can yell at me. Hey, as soon as I got my schedule out, if it's sexy enough, maybe we can do one before the season. So I can throw that out there too. But whatever works, I'm always here for you guys. You guys are a lot of fun to talk to, and just college football is it's never going to stop for me. So I'm going to keep going. Even when I'm done with this tour, I'm going to keep going. I'm going to figure out the next goal.
There you go. Yeah, like you said, the finish line always moves. But don't be in a rush to come to the Northeast, because I want to keep being able to say that I've been to 4 places that you haven't.
See where this is going. Very good.
So I guess we're going to jump into our trip recaps. Andrew, you're welcome to stick around if you'd like.
I will.
So Mark, did you do college football or was it basketball this weekend?
College basketball.
All right. Bowling Green, right?
Bowling Green or Bowling Green State. Apparently, I was unaware it was called Bowling Green State, but apparently that was okay because somebody calls it Bowling Green State. But I can tell you this: I drove 3 hours to Bowling Green, Ohio, which is just about half hour south of Toledo, maybe 20 miles, and checked out the Stroh Center, which is a beautiful facility, just opened up in 2011, and gorgeous 5,000 seat venue. It's right off the interstate, right on the main drag. Stands out, has a beautiful 2-ton bronze falcon statue outside of it. Open windows looking inside the building. And I wasn't planning on checking out, doing anything this weekend, but when Dave sent out the text with trips, I said, I got the week off. Let me see what's going on in Bowling Green. So
damn teachers in your weeks off, man.
I looked at Bowling Green. I looked at Toledo. I was going to try to fit Toledo in, but, you get tired because I probably would have wound up doing 3 games on Saturday, and I would have had to wake up here at 6 a.m. to get to the first game. So at my older age, I got to slow down a bit. So, yeah, Stroh Center, nice 5,000-seat venue, decent fan base. They haven't been that good lately. In fact, the last time they made an NCAA tournament was 1968, which is 4th longest in college history. But they went 25-11 last year, and they're off to a 5-1 start. So this team is a little more magical So maybe, just maybe, 2020 is their year they break that streak. But cheap, affordable tickets, easy to get around. Very nice facility. Hockey arena is just on the other side of the parking lot. That was built in 1967, and unlike the basketball program, this is one deep in tradition. It has former NHL players that have been there. They've won the school's only championship in 1984. Scott Hamilton, Olympic gold medalist, was an alumni there. He
really?
On that. Yeah, Scott Hamilton. I think I was more excited about that than some like Ken Morrow or somebody. I was like, oh, Scott Hamilton. I used to watch this guy with my mom.
That's right. Ken Morrow went to Bowling Green as well. 1980.
Yeah, Ken Morrow, Rob Blake. Guys that are not all of them superstars, but some of the names I remember. Oh, yeah, I remember. I've heard of him. Great hockey tradition. And what I didn't know is about 10 years ago, they almost got rid of the hockey program at Bowling Green. They weren't good anymore, and they were trying to save some money. And guys like Scott Hamilton came in and set up a grassroots campaign. I think he donated $500,000 of his own money into making sure the facility was renovated properly to continue hockey. So thumbs up to Mr. Hamilton.
Yeah, when I was there a couple years ago, and they had the Slater family had just kicked in the big dollars to basically save that arena, and they really made a big deal about how it was a program saver. But yeah, you're right about that Stroh Center. It is a nice spot. Were you there in the evening or the afternoon?
Evening.
Yeah, I was there in the evening as well. I'd be curious to see what it would be like in the afternoon with like the sun shining in all those windows, and it goes right. It's a very unique facility in that sense, in that you get that natural light right into the basketball court. Yeah.
It was like it got dark already. If it was during the summer, you would definitely get a little more of that natural lighting, but the orange, the lighting, the way it pops out at night is a little bit nicer than during the day. So it's, when you compare that new facility to the hockey arena, which is a classic old school hockey barn with a low ceiling. It has orange bleacher seating. They have some renovations. Most of it is cosmetic. The Zamboni, for example, they have to cordon off part of the concourse to let the Zamboni come in to surface. And then when the players leave, they also cordon off some of the concourse, let them go to their locker room. And then the cool thing about that is that fans can, stand by the ropes and shake their hands. Reminds me a little bit of the Windsor Arena when they used to have to cart off part of the concourse. But they're talking about more renovations to the building that would add some suite levels to the south end. So, Slater family, $7.7 million to renovate that place. And, it's a good thing that there's some people out there that care enough to donate that much money and save this program, because you're right, it was a game saver. Thankfully, hockey has continued to be played there, and the team's been successful the last few years. So 2019 was the first time they made the NCAA tournament in almost 30 years, if you can believe that. If the information that I read was correct, I couldn't believe it either. I thought they least made it a couple times in the mid-90s. But two interesting facilities on Bowling Green. And the campus life, a little questionable. I sort of was thinking there was going to be a lot more going on there. The only great thing about it is I found this place called City Tap downtown, and they have this great selection of craft brew beer from $4.50 to about $5.50 a pint. Other than that, it's a sleepy little town, and you live and you learn. Yes.
I always end up at the Mexican restaurant across the road.
Yeah, it was closed.
Really?
Yeah, a lot of places closed early. I do have to tell you one thing. The next day, there was this awesome bookstore, Grounds for Thought, that is in downtown, and it takes up about 3 stores inside. The place was packed. People were doing puzzles and playing video games and computers, drinking coffee. It was shocking that all these people were inside this expansive coffee shop and used bookstore. That was probably the highlight outside of going to the games in Bowling Green that day. And then to cap off my trip, I went to the Allen County War Memorial Coliseum in Fort Wayne, Indiana, to check out the Fort Wayne Manats of the NBA G League. Much different experience than seeing a Comets game. They rope off, or they put the curtains up and block off the upper level. And they block off a lot of the arena. But what you get is up close and personal seating right on the floor. So if you're going there for the first time, you probably have some of the best seats to professional basketball in the state of Indiana. You're on top of the action. They have a drum corps. They have an awesome mascot. They have a lot of activities for the kids. They're doing a lot of entertainment to get you into the building. And for that, the atmosphere was pretty energetic, I have to say. It was a good time. You can't complain. If you were there with a small kids or a family, I think they would love and want to come back. For me, it was just a great time to just sit back, watch a game, and be that close without anybody bothering you or complaining where you're supposed to be and where you're not supposed to be. So nice little trip, all within 3 hours of Indianapolis. So glad I made it.
Excellent. Sounds like a great couple of trips. Dave, how about you? Now, you had a tweet about your trips that actually went viral, kind of, huh?
Oh, I didn't see that.
Well, it wasn't about my trip, actually. My viral tweet, which ended up, I know we were like having a little tweet battle to see who had the better one, you and me, Paul, but you definitely had more views, but I had more likes. I ended up with about 85 on that one, which was, for me, is pretty darn good. And it was about this past weekend, we're talking college football. It was the college football. Actually, it was the big Canadian football weekend. College football in Canada ended up on Saturday, and it was the Vanier Cup, and congrats to the Calgary Dinos. And my tweet was on the Vanier Cup. So Canadian University football has had a bit of a rocky road the last couple of years, and we had Jim Mullen on a few episodes ago, and he was talking about it. And for the longest, well, not the longest time, the last contract was with Rogers and on Sportsnet, and that contract ended. And those who really like Canadian college football were happy that it ended because they didn't feel that Rogers did much for them. And we were looking at not having anywhere for it to go for quite a while. And really about 3 weeks ago, the CBC announced that they were going to pick up coverage of the Vanier Cup. And my tweet was just basically, I'm really busy today. I'm not going to get a chance to watch the whole thing. Hey, CBC, I am watching some of it. Thanks for picking it up. This is something that needs to be done. And a lot of people agreed with me, apparently. So that was cool. And then, of course,
88 likes.
Oh, nice.
Oh, wait
There
a
we
minute.
go.
Now I got to see how many I ended up with. 4.
It's like that, is it? So, and then Sunday was, of course, Grey Cup Sunday. And we were talking about droughts earlier. And the Winnipeg Blue Bombers ended the longest CFL drought. So they won the Grey Cup. Congrats to them. None of those were my trips, however. I ended up, the real boss, not you, Paul, but the real boss.
I know who the real boss is. I got a boss, too.
Well, she got the luxury box at the Kitchener Rangers. And so we did a little bit of schmoozing with bankers. And I think it might have been, it was either the last game for Coach Jay McKee or the second last game for Coach Jay McKee because he just got turfed. But, the Odd is always a great spot. And we had a couple of my wife's banking contacts there and their families. And then my kids were there and my daughter's new boyfriend was there. And the nephews were there. So it was a big family thing. And we had a pretty good time. we'll see if we scared the boyfriend completely off or not.
That's your job, Dave. You know that now.
That is my job. But you know what? He got the seal of approval from my son, so the little brother likes him. So we'll see if that's good or not. But I got to do a triple hitter. Now, to me, this was kind of a cheating triple hitter because my triple hitter was all at one spot.
Yeah,
So on the 16th, I was at the inaugural James Naismith Classic in Toronto at Scotiabank Arena, and we had 3 college basketball games. So it tipped off with Harvard and Buffalo. Yeah, I was surprised. There were 3 Canadians in the Harvard starting lineup, which, for a draw in Toronto is pretty good. But and Buffalo is a decent draw because there's plenty of traveling fans that'll come up north. The highlight game was Tennessee-Washington, and then the big surprise game was St. Bonaventure and Rutgers. And St. Bonaventure definitely, out of the whole bunch, had the best following. They were definitely the loudest. And they beat Rutgers, and I'm not sure if they were supposed to beat Rutgers or not, but they did. Overall, actually, we were talking earlier, I think before we got on, and Andrew, you were talking about this, how one of the things that bothers you are college football teams that don't know what colors they play with.
Yeah.
So, Paul, you're the Boston guy. What the hell is Harvard doing wearing black uniforms? What is up with that?
Crimson and Canadian means black.
It was terrible.
Doesn't every basketball team have a black uniform?
I guess. Do the Lakers?
The color gray is becoming very popular now too.
Ooh, I don't like that.
People are wearing just gray and trying to be like sleek and cool that way, and I don't like it.
I don't like that either.
Duke wore black for many years. That looked odd to me.
Yeah, well, the Harvard Crimson wearing black was horrible. But I don't know. The whole event was interesting. It was definitely an attempt to kind of have that NCAA tournament feel to it. But there were a couple things that were really disappointing. First of all, the crowd. The announced attendance was about 6,800. And if you've ever been to a March Madness game, you would know that the attendance is revolving, right? So when one team or when 2 teams play, their fans are there, and then a good chunk of them will bail after their game, or some people don't show up until their team shows up. I will give Tennessee credit. They had a pretty decent following considering their distance as well. They also stand out that everybody's wearing that orange, so you can pick them out pretty easily. The other thing is they really failed to capture that college atmosphere. Nobody brought their band. Nobody brought their mascot. Nobody brought their cheerleaders. It was like the Raptors 905 mascot was running around. And I think Hyundai was the big sponsor. So you guys may have seen this guy before, Nav Bhatia. He's the Raptors super fan. He's the Sikh guy. You might have seen him in the NBA Finals, but he was there. He was kind of the celebrity. He was presenting the player of the game. But that being said, we did have a good time. I'm curious to see if there will be a second annual James Naismith Classic. But until that point, I guess it was a decent way to kick off the college basketball season. That's definitely my first one.
Does James Naismith have a connection with Toronto?
Well, he's Canadian.
There you go.
Yeah. Basically, when he went down to Springfield, he brought a bunch of French guys with him from Quebec, and that very first basketball game was almost an all-Canadian affair.
Oh, okay. Well, good. I learned something today. Stadium journey.
Yeah, and I think one of those guys wound up coming out to Indiana and taking the peach basket and making it into a hoop, and said, "Hey, I learned this really awesome game in Springfield." So I think that's why Indiana kind of blew up with basketball as well. So
was that your trip, Steve?
That was it.
All right, good. And for those of you who have been watching this, you've been noticed I've been fading in and out, and I'm glad I got my feedback because I got a rant to go on. Hopefully. I always say I got a rant, but I never follow through on it. So for my trips, went to my first Providence Bruins game of the year. We won't talk about the Dunkin' Donuts Center. We've talked about it enough. There's no changes to the dunk. It's the same. But then this past weekend was, well, 2 weekends ago, we didn't do anything because it was my 35th high school reunion. So my boss said no games. I know I don't look like I'm 35 years out of high school, but anyway. But last weekend we went up to Boston. It was Pam's birthday. So and what's happened the last 3 years in a row, the Bruins have ended up playing on her birthday, and my wife is fantastic. She's a huge sports fan as well. So she is more than cool with us getting up to Boston for the weekend, catching a game, hitting the North End, doing all that stuff. So that's what we did. Went up. Let's see what we hit the North End. I went to Tresca Restaurant in the North End. The reason I bring this up is it's got a sports connection. Ray Bork is the owner of the restaurant. So when we went there, I got the Ray Bork special, which was a 1 pound veal chop, pounded flat, and I got it Parmesan. They said this is what Ray Bork eats every time he goes there. When this thing came out to my table, I said, holy shit, because it was a full-size plate, and the veal chop took up the whole plate, plus it had a side of bolognese on it. So they say Ray Bork eats that every time he goes there. There's no way, because if he did, he would weigh like 400 pounds. This plate was huge. The good news is it was 2 meals for me, but it was unbelievable. And then we went to the game. The Bruins played the Minnesota Wild. And our next episode will be on the best games of 2019. I may be talking about this game a little bit. The Bruins were down 2 with a minute to go, ended up tying it up in regulation and winning it in overtime. So it was a heck of a thing. But I wanted to talk about the TD Garden because over the offseason, they spent a ton of money. I can't think of the figure right now, renovating the place. I know last spring I talked about how the Garden now has a front door. They built a whole entry plaza. They've got stores there now. There's a supermarket. There's a movie theater. There's a couple of bars. The pro shop is now down on street level. Very, very nice entry plaza. They moved the Bobby Orr statue back now. He's been moved 3 times since they first moved the statue. So he's now guarding the front entrance to the Boston. Yes.
$100 million.
$100 million. That's for the whole project, though, not just the garden part of it, right?
Yeah, the entire expansion of TD Garden.
Yeah, because they're also building a 36-floor condominium tower next to it and everything. Should all be done by next year. But the garden, TD Garden part of the renovations were done. They expanded the concourses. And you know what? It is a little bit easier to get around now. A little bit. But the biggest part of the renovations, they put some social areas up on the 9th level, party zones, a new bar at the top of the balcony section.
Those rafter seats are awesome.
Yeah, that's going to be a private membership-only area, so it's not something that everyone will be able to access. The back row bar is something that everyone can access on the balcony level. But the big deal was that they ripped out all the seats in the TD Garden. If you could picture the inside of the garden right now, they had yellow and black seats, yellow, black, all around the lower level. Ripped all the seats out, replaced them with new seats that had padding on the seat, padding on the back. There were higher backs, new armrests, ergonomically correct. You figure this is going to be beautiful. Oh my God, you can't fit in the damn seats now.
Oh Lord.
I don't know if anybody has seen anything, but if you, I'm a big guy. I'm not a tall guy. I'm 5'10", and I have a 27-inch inseam. So I have tiny little legs. A big torso, little legs. I couldn't get my legs into the seat in front of me.
Wow.
Now, because the seats have padding and new armrests, what happened is it shrunk the area that you can fit your body into. So luckily I had an end seat and Pam was next to me and there was a guy next to her who wasn't a big guy, average sized guy. And poor Pam was like this. She was smushed. And this was with me. I was kind of sitting like this, leaning out into the stairs. But, I'm a wide guy. She sat down and said, "You're not going to be able to sit down here." I got in. I could sit my rear end in, but if this was the chair, I was kind of up here, so you couldn't get yourself down into the chair. So you're up high. You didn't have enough leg room. It was just a mess. And when the season started, and people were going to the preseason games, people were complaining. It was all over the internet. And the Garden's response initially was, these things take a little getting used to. So basically their response to people not being able to fit in their chairs was, tough, get used to it.
Oh, I just thought, you know what? I'm going to Wells Fargo Center next week for the first time since the renovations.
See, it was kind of a nice thing. They tried to put in better chairs. They, padded them, made them so they're ergonomically correct, put in new armrests and everything. But what happened is the seats ended up being smaller. So it's like, if any of you have ever been to Fenway Park, you've got this 25-year-old arena now with seats like they're 100 years old.
Yeah.
There was just no room. And the row we were sitting in, you can only get in and out of the row one way. So every time somebody got up, I had to get up. And I'm not kidding when I tell you, I have 2 bruises on the sides of my rear end from where the ends of the armrest were hitting them. That's how much of my butt I got in the chair. About this much actually got into the chair.
Paul, Baltimore effing arena.
Though it's still not as bad as Washington. Washington has the worst seats because those have the little armrests and they have a cup holder at the end of them. So you got the armrest with a knob at the end. So the only way for me to get into those seats is I got to kind of squat and slide in.
Well,
the
thing about Baltimore Arena is you got the chairs, and up on the armrest you have the metal sides like wings that go up to the armrest. So somebody is fat as I am, that's where the soreness comes from. So it feels like somebody just punched me in the thigh all night for about 2 days. Like, God damn it. And I could, some weight and, take care of that.
As bad as it was for me, I felt worse for Pam.
Oh, man.
Yeah, Andrew.
If I could just add one positive about it, and I know that I've already talked a lot about stadiums, but you guys make me want to say something that I've never seen at a stadium before that I wonder if you've seen. This was at University of Tulsa, Skelly Field at H.A. Chapman Stadium. Old stadium. They renovated the outside. They kept the inside They kept the integrity of the stadium. And there's a concourse all the way around. On one side of the concourse, it's closed off between the stadium, then concourse, and then there's a row of townhomes. Okay, a row of townhomes, and that's what blocks you from coming into the stadium, basically into the stadium concourse. But the garages at the bottom of the townhomes had all been rehabbed into the stadium bathrooms and concourses and the concessions. So if you can imagine, the one side, their townhomes, people live up there, but then their garages are the concession stands and the bathrooms on the concourse side of the stadium. I've never seen anything like that before. Took so many pictures of it, I didn't know what to do.
I can't even picture it in my head.
I'll have to send you some pictures. Maybe I'm not explaining it that well, but.
So if I'm home, do I need to pull my car out of the garage so everybody can go take a whiz?
Well, the only thing is that those people who have a townhome on that side just don't have a garage. The garage is.
Oh, okay, all right, I get you.
Garage is for the stadium.
Okay.
On that side of the townhome, it's just for the stadium.
Huh.
So weird, so cool, really neat, interesting.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So the rest of the TD Gardens, renovations were positive, but man, the seats, and it was coming from a good place, but just didn't work out. So that's my rant, my mini rant, and we'll wrap it up there. So you know what, Andrew, let's start with you. You got any stadium journeys planned? Any trips the next week or two that you'll let us know about?
Definitely going to Knoxville this Saturday for the Vanderbilt at Tennessee game, and then I'll be working the Big Ten championship game in Indianapolis on December 7th at Lucas Oil Stadium.
Nice. And where can our listeners follow you online, check out your website and so forth?
My website is collegefootballtour.com. And then you can find me on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram, all through the College Football Tour name. So if you just search that, you'll find it.
Awesome, and thanks once again for coming on, Andrew. It was a lot of fun.
Thank you guys so much again. I always enjoy it.
Dan, where can our listeners follow you?
Dan Law 83.
Mark, any stadium journeys planned for the next couple of weeks, and where can our listeners follow you?
Well, I'm going to check out some of the largest high school basketball gyms in Indiana, in hopefully Michigan City, Gary, East Chicago. I'll probably get 2 out of the 3. I'm also trying to get up to Northwestern University to check out their new facility, which Andrew said is gorgeous, and I have to agree with him. That's why I want to get up there. You can follow that and see if I get to some of these buildings at Ballpark Hunter, either on Twitter or on Instagram.
Dave, how about you? Any stadium journeys planned, and where can our listeners follow you online?
Yeah, this Friday, heading to Windsor to review some Windsor Lancers hockey at the Capri Pizzeria Recreation Complex. I think that's what it's called now. And then I have to give props and thanks to my friend Dr. McGregor, because he hooked me up with some Maple Leaf and Avalanche tickets for next week. And then it's on to do some lacrosse to kick off their season. So it'll be down to KeyBank Center and the Buffalo Bandits. And you can follow all of those at ProFan9 on Twitter and Instagram.
Nice. I saw some pictures from the inaugural Halifax. What's the name of their team? Thunderbirds?
Thunderbirds.
Yeah, their first preseason game. Looks like it was a good crowd there, so that'll be fun to see.
A very good crowd.
Yeah.
And as for myself, this weekend, I will be doing the PA again for the undefeated Boston Pride. And then my only other trip would be over to the Dunk again for another Providence Bruins game. You can follow my stadium journeys on Twitter and Instagram at PuckmanRI. And in 2 weeks, join us because we'll be having our end of the year episode where we recap our favorite stadium journeys of 2019. And listeners, you can share your favorites on our Facebook page, on our Twitter page. Share your favorite pictures on Instagram at Stadium Journey and HIAC Talk Radio. Check out our website, stadiumjourney.com. You can find the Stadium Journey podcast and all of HIAC Talk Radio's other great content at thebradyhicks.com. And you can watch all of HIAC Talk Radio's podcasts on YouTube at youtube.com/DanLaw83. So for Andrew Bauhs, for Dave Calachico, Mark Viquez, and Dave Cotney, I'm Paul Baker wishing you all close games and safe journeys.